Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Brick. My name is Nick, and today we're looking at set number 75314, the Bad Batch Attack Shuttle. Based on the hit TV show on Disney+, the Bad Batch Attack Shuttle does not let up for details, and the minifigs and the builds, everything in this set is just fantastic. I love the use of the sand blue for a lot of this ship. That is a color that we don't get in a lot of Star Wars ships, or ships in general. Just a lot of different builds do not come with a lot of sand blue, and this one is one of the ones that has a lot of it and a lot of different pieces that you wouldn't really expect. So again, pretty cool to get. There are a ton of very detailed minifigs in here. There's a total of 5 actual minifigs and then 1 brick-built fig, but Bricklink and Lego do count it as one, so there are technically 6 figures in here, that being the Gonk Droid, which is awesome. And yeah, let's get into the main build because there are some pretty cool details that I want to show you on that first. Starting off with the ship, we have an amazing ship design. Again, a lot of sand blue. Love the color of sand blue being used here in a lot of pieces that you wouldn't really see it in. The only downside for this set would be the anti-studs on the bottom of the wings, but again, this is Star Wars, so we are going to see that quite a bit. You see that in so many ships nowadays, and it's something that you really just kind of have to deal with. Besides, the ship itself is supposed to be in this formation right here. If you flip it upside down, it looks like a Y. I'll show you that. That is pretty cool. The wings are just attached with some Technic ratchet joints right there, so those click down and up, and you're able to move this thing up and down, so that way you can get the perfect shaping of the wings. The ship is always in that position when it is flying, and when it is landing, it is in the current position that you see it right now. On the front of the ship, we're going to start right up there. You have the general cockpit area, and that is just protected by this giant sand blue windscreen with some really nice printing. You see some red windowing right there. That's for some window tint. Again, with some really nice printing on the front. Very happy that these are prints instead of stickers. Very excited to get those in a sand blue piece. That piece really is a piece that I did not expect to come in the sand blue color, so this is definitely unique for this set. You can actually lift up the main fin in the center, and that is how you get to the interior of the ship. You just sort of lift it up just like that, and you can see on the inside that there are quite a few details. Again, lifting up the exterior of the ship, you can see that there is the main cockpit just with a 1x2 cheese slope with some printing on the inside. There is a little cockpit area that has 2 seats, so you can actually put 2 minifigs in there if you wanted. Pretty sure you can also fit the Gonk Droid if you wanted to have 1 fig there, as well as maybe Hunter piloting the ship. In the back, you do have space for at least 2 more figs, so you do have the full 4 that can fit inside. You can put an Omega in there if you kind of squeeze. If you do have an Omega fig, then obviously you know she comes from this show as well. On the back, there are 2 more stickered sloped pieces that have a picture of a clone, and then also a picture of a Venator next to another ship, and there's some Arabesh there. Not sure what that is. I wish I could translate it, but I am not fluent, unlike some other people out there. The interior of the ship is pretty roomy for the size of it. I think that they were able to get a pretty good amount of space in there for figs if you did want to put them in there, but there is not a ton for the Gonk Droid. You kind of have to squeeze everybody in, but it still works. Going back to the exterior, on both the left and right of the main fin, you have these really nice tiled areas. Again, a lot of sand blue being used here, some light blue, some light bluish gray, and some dark bluish gray, and that kind of gives some different accent colors. As we move along to the back, we have these thrusters that you can open and close, kind of representing the little arches that go over the top of the thrusters. You can move them to make it look like you were actually, blasting off, and that is what kind of makes these 2 on the back pretty nice. And you can see that there are some stickers adorning the back too, so as you open and close those, you can see those stickers with those giant hatches. It's almost like the wing of a plane. When they are attempting to land, you can see the rudders on the plane, and that kind of moves up and down. The wings, again, are very nicely detailed. You have a nice long stripe going down the center of the wing in sand blue, and the rest are black. And when you have it in the flying ship formation, you can see that the colors work really well, and just the studs look fantastic. I know a lot of people would rather have tiled off, smoothed off builds for spaceships, but it is Lego. You're going to want to have some sort of stud showing so that you can attach figs, and this one does a really good job at balancing the smoothness and the studs. The main fin in the middle is kind of one of the things that turn people away from this set, and that is because one side is completely studded and the other side is anti-stud. That is one thing that is kind of a downfall to this set. Not a huge fan of it, but again, again, if you're just having this ship to either have on display or play, either one work. I think that the use of pieces that sort of mirror the left and right side of the wing, even though one is stud and one is anti-studs, it works pretty well. You can obviously tell that the mirror did not work as well on the anti-studs just because it feels more awkward. You know, we're so used to having the studs point up, so this one is kind of disappointing on the right side of the wing right there. On the back, I did forget to mention, there is also a small miniaturized version of a turret, so that is definitely something that has been kept up in the LEGO Star Wars community for a while. The Ahsoka Tano T6 shuttle also had that, where it had a very, very small version of the big glass turret that was in the back of the ship in the show, and this one is no different, just kind of these 1x1 studs with the bar coming off the back, and it does look like mini turrets back there. The secondary build, we do have a speeder, and this speeder does belong to Crosshair when he is part of the Empire, so this is pretty cool. The scene that the set is sort of based on is not really depicted in the show. This is kind of just a hodgepodge of different events that happen throughout the show. So we do have Crosshair speeder right here, and it is just black and dark bluish gray. The color scheme is very on par for LEGO Star Wars. It does have 2 stud shooters in the front. I did take the studs out just so we didn't lose them, and it also has some clip holders for Crosshair's weapons on the back. You can also see on that long back slope piece, there are some stickers that give it some more detailing. This set does kind of swap between stickers and prints. Most of the print details did go to the figs though, and I can't wait to show you those because they are amazing. The seat is done in a dark blue, and that works pretty good as well. Next up, we have the lime green speeder that in the set is depicted to have tech riding on it. I'm gonna be honest, I do not remember if this is part of one of the scenes. I think it is, I just can't remember which specific scene of the show this is part of, but nonetheless, this is a pretty cool speeder. Definitely a color that we wouldn't normally get, so I think getting it in a Bad Batch set is pretty good. I like the stickering on the front. You've got that 1x2 sort of, actually 2x2 sloped tile print right there, as well as a 2x2 slope with another sticker on that. So on the sides, we do have these weird canisters that are hanging off, and I think those are either for balance or as blasters. You're supposed to put them down the way that they are right now, and I'm pretty sure you can use them as blasters as well, and any minifig just sort of snugly fits right inside of the little seat area. Up first, we do have simply named Gonk Droid. He has no specific name. He is tied to the Clone Force 99, so that is kind of the designation that he gets in Bricklink. So nothing super special about this guy. He is a Gonk Droid, so they're all special. Come on. He has a really simply built foot build for the bottom of his feet right there. He also is just made out of dark bluish gray pieces, just some snot bricks and some plates, and again, very simple, not a whole lot to talk about. Up next, we have Crosshair. Crosshair is in his Imperial outfit, which is just fantastic. I too wish that we got him in his normal Clone Force 99 outfit. I think that the Crosshair helmet with that actual crosshair that goes across the eye on his helmet would have been fantastic, but to get this Imperial version is also just as cool. I think the printing on the legs up from the toes into the knees into the belt piece is fantastic. You can see the belts even printed on the torso as well, and you can kind of see what looks like Death Trooper armor almost, and it kind of looks like pre-Death Trooper armor, so I like to think that that's where that kind of armor came from, especially since Bad Batch is canon, and all of that show is amazing. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely go watch it. His helmet is pretty perfect. He's just got the normal Phase 2 clone helmet without helmet holes, so this one makes it even better, but it is in black, and it's got that big green stripe across, and that makes up for the visor. Underneath that helmet and visor, he does have an exclusive face print that does have the crosshair over the eyes, and he looks so good. I love that facial expression. He's got just that scowl there. He does not have any printing on the back of his head. A lot of these clones do not have any other printing other than the normal face print. So getting this crosshair is just fantastic. I really hope that in the future we do eventually get Clone Force 99 figs that are based sort of on either the Clone Wars where Season 7 arc, or maybe even their Season 2, Season 3 kind of looks. They really need the upgrade for the figs. I think that all of these figs are fantastic, but again, I really hope that we get more variations of them. Up next, we have Echo, and Echo is kind of a controversial pick for the Bad Batch just because a lot of people were upset when he did join Clone Force 99, and I think that he honestly deserved to join them. He sort of proved his strength in the arc in Season 7, but honestly, this fig is really good. I don't think anybody should be knocking him. I think that the only reason people are knocking him is because he just wasn't part of the original group, and he kind of just left Rex and Cody, and you know what? Good for him. He got a new place and he found a new family, and honestly, it's a cool way to keep this character within canon and keep him in different stories. Other than the lore of the fig, this minifig is fantastic. I think, honestly, this is my second favorite of the Bad Batch, just for the minifigs, not character-wise, but he does have some really good printings. Let's talk about that. His legs do have these really good printing on the toes, up into the knees. He also does have a comma that is printed, not physical, which is unfortunate because a lot of people have been complaining about the commas not being physical, and them all being printed is definitely a problem. I'm kind of impartial. I'm a big fan of Lego Star Wars, but I'm not going to sit here and nitpick it just because of some corners cut, and I know you must be thinking, Nick, you're a hypocrite. You talk about this all the time with Marvel. Marvel's my thing. Marvel's my jam, so that's the one that I'm going to choose to defend. Lego Star Wars has enough defenders out there. Again, let's just talk about the fig. His torso has some really good printing. He does have a skull badge on his shoulder, on the left shoulder up there, and then he's got this really cool printed belt up into the gunmetal gray, kind of dark silver printing that he has, or actually mold that he has for the entire fig. And one of these other things about all of these figs in this set is that they are really well molded. The colors used for them is just something you don't see in a lot of figs, but I think that getting this variation of colors is just so crisp and it's so cool. The right arm does have printing on it, and this is for a reason, and his hand is a different color, and that is also for a reason. It is to represent his mechanical arm that he has in the show. I kind of wish that they gave him the CMF arm that has like the, you know, the evil robot. That would have been great, but you know what? It probably would have extended his arm too much. They probably played around with that, and they probably wouldn't have been able to be printing on that. So to get this is still fantastic. I love that printing with that red stripe, especially on the right shoulder. That's pretty cool. And yeah, I love this fig. I think that he's super detailed, and his helmet is honestly the coolest one out of all of them. I love this very sleek design. It kind of goes down. That visor is probably the thinnest out of everybody's, and I think that that is fantastic. You take off the helmet, and he actually does have back printing. That is to show his cybernetic implants that he got while he was being forced to work for the Empire. So that is pretty sad reminder of what happens to him in the show. You can see the plugs all along his forehead as well, and he has a pretty worn out face, and just like he does in the show. So they did a really good job representing Echo here. Next up, we have Echo. Echo is arguably the most detailed in the whole set, other than maybe Wrecker. I am so in love with this fig. I love the helmet mold. I love the little backpack that he's got on with that 1x1 exclusive printed tile, and he also has the really good sort of, I call them Mandalorian blasters, just because a lot of Mandalorians use them now, but this fig is fantastic. Let's talk about him. His leg printing has a lot of variations between dark bluish gray, light gray, red, dark red, and black and brown. Those straps go all the way up onto his hip piece into his belt, so that works really, really well. He does have back printing. It is kind of covered. It's pretty plain, though, on the back, so I'm not even going to take it off to show you. He does have that belt that runs around the whole back side, but again, pretty plain. No need to show. The backpack has this 1x1 exclusive printed tile with a 1x1 modified plate that has the little anti-studs on the side and then an antenna piece right there. His helmet is the best part of the fig. It is completely molded. Unfortunately, that visor does not go up and down. It is stuck in place like that, so you can see on the left and right, kind of like the headphone molds where it's in that hexagon pattern. It's got the little skull with lightning bolts coming through it. That is so cool. That is something that you are not going to find in a lot of minifigs, especially in Star Wars. And then the top of his helmet also has a red stripe going down the center of it as well. Up next, we have the best fig in the whole set, in my opinion. I just love Wrecker. I think he's awesome. He honestly was not my favorite character when I first started the show, and towards the end, I really enjoyed him. Him and Tech really made really big resurgences in how their characters were, and I loved it. The minifig, however, is just so cool. I love the shoulder pads with the printing on the right and left shoulders, and you've got 99 in Arabesh printed there. That is so cool. I love the printing on the feet up into the torso. He also does have back printing, but again, pretty plain, so he is definitely not going to get that armor removed. I'm just going to show you what you can see just because it's not really worth removing. On the front of the torso, however, there is some really good printing that matches up to his armor piece, and actually, if you did take off, and you know what, I am going to take it off. So if you do take off that armor right there, you can actually see that there is that red line that goes up the center of the chest, and that lines up perfectly with the armor that you put on top, and that works so well. And I am just so happy that LEGO did that, because that is such a good detail, and you can have it on or off and it'll still look the same. So that's pretty dang cool. You're not covering up anything that's, you know, pretty integral to the character. Sometimes Iron Man does have that happen, where like the scuba Iron Man, where you put on the giant piece of armor and you can't really see what's underneath his chest, but like the printing's really cool. But this solves that problem, so that's pretty awesome. The helmet I'm actually going to show you after, but the face print on Wrecker is fantastic. You can see he's got that whited out scarred eye and the scars all across the side of his face and some stubble. That's perfect. That's perfect Wrecker representation, and I'm so happy to finally get a Wrecker minifig. He is definitely my favorite out of all of them, and his helmet is so insanely detailed. He also has the 99 printed there on his forehead, and just the skull look of his mask, it kind of looks like a Mythosaur skull. Haven't really figured out what that print is just yet, but it is just amazing. Anyways, that is all for Wrecker, so let's move on to the last fig, and I did save him for last. All right, I did save Hunter for last just because he is the most overused fig in all of Star Wars media. He has, I'm pretty sure, 4 or 5 set appearances now. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think that he's probably the most plain one out of all of them. So yeah, not a whole lot to talk about here. He does come in the dark pearl gray, and he also has some really nice printing on the legs that lead up into the torso. His torso is very reminiscent of Wrecker's, or actually, this is so weird, but I am just now noticing that Wrecker and Hunter have the exact same torso, so you have it here with me. This is the very first time that I've ever discovered that, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so that's something new. Anyways, the Hunter minifig is pretty plain. He does not have any arm printing. His helmet, though, is really cool. It's also molded in this dark pearl gray, and he has this really fantastic whited out half of his face, and then the dark red that goes down the center. That is exactly how it is in the films, or actually the episodes, which is just amazing. I love that. He also does come with a knife as an accessory, but his facial expression is perfect for him. He just has the sort of frown right there, and he also has the half tattooed face that works really well, and also the skull on the red bandana. He's the only one that comes with a secondary face. This one, he has a gritted teeth look, and again has the same tattooed face with the skull on the bandana. The Bad Batch is a show that definitely deserves more sets. I think that getting more figs in the season 2 and season 3 variants would be amazing, especially Omega. Omega really comes in clutch for a lot of the episodes, especially in season 3. So getting a new updated Omega would be fantastic. I think that we definitely deserve a new one, just because the Omega that we have now is great for season 1, don't get me wrong, but we definitely need an upgraded Omega, especially when, and on spoilers, so stop watching if you don't want spoilers, but the adult version of Omega at the end of season 3 would be really cool to get, just as a random fig thrown into a sort of like future era. The Bad Batch takes place right after the Clone Wars, so it's right before the original trilogy. Just throw her into a random set as an adult. I think that would be really cool, and I think that, you know, Star Wars can sort of benefit from that, saying that she was in some sort of random battle, and Star Wars as a whole company could say, yeah, that's canon. That would be awesome. Anyways, that is going to be all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.